Stephan has quickly established himself as the face of finance on YouTube. With nearly 4 million subscribers and over 800 videos, the ex-real estate agent has certainly laid his claim over the online personal finance space. And honestly, it's not hard to see why. Aside from uploading an average of 3 videos per week on his main channel, Graham also runs the Stephan Show and the Iced Coffee Hour, 2 channels with combined subscriptions in excess of 1 million and over 600 videos produced. Not to mention Millennial Money, the financial collaboration channel started by Graham, Andre Giek, me, Kevin, and Jeremy from Financial Education. Long story short, the guy has a great work ethic and definitely deserves all of the success which has come his way. Nevertheless, we're not here to talk about Graham's success as a YouTuber, but you should check out Paddy Galloway's video on Graham's YouTube strategy if you are more interested in that side of things. Instead, what we're going to talk about is a question. You see, millions of people each month tune into Graham's videos, not only for entertainment, but for information. With Graham being as successful as he is seen and perceived by many as the gold standard when it comes to financial information. He covers everything from stocks to crypto to housing to financial policy, a one-stop shop for everything finance. Such influence raises a very important question. Is it wise to rely on finance YouTubers for financial information? And perhaps more important, is it wise to act on such information? Of course, this applies not only to Graham, but to all YouTubers covering personal finance topics, including myself. But for the purposes of this video, we're going to use Graham's content as the basis for answering those questions. So if you watch Graham or any other finance YouTubers, stick around to the end of the video. I promise you'll find value in what we discuss. Real quick, if this is your first time on my channel, my name is Dan Malone and I'm a fully qualified accountant, tax advisor, and financial advisor. I make no nonsense finance content, so if you like what you see, drop a like on the video, and as this also happens to be my 100th video on YouTube, show your support by subscribing to the channel. Alright, let's get started. Graham is an American personal finance creator, and as you might expect, much of his content covers US specific topics. This includes everything from US credit scores to 401ks and Roth IRAs to US taxes and even US specific investing. While this is great for Graham's undoubtedly large American audience, it isn't overly valuable for the millions of people who tune into Graham from around the world. That brings us to our problem: geographic relevance. You see, the rules and regulations which govern global financial systems are very much global in nature. It's rare that the rules of one country will line up exactly with the rules of another. This is best explained using examples. Graham regularly covers the topic of retirement on his channel. Retirement is obviously a very important personal finance topic, given that most of us would someday like to retire from work, and we want to know what we should be doing in order to help make that dream a reality. What's most important when it comes to retirement planning is investing in your pension, because ultimately that's what's going to support you in retirement when you're no longer earning a salary. Graham often makes reference to Roth IRAs and 401ks in his videos. These are US specific retirement accounts which are used by Americans for retirement investing. The problem is that those specific retirement accounts only exist in America, and that makes sense given that they come from US law. So if you're someone from Europe watching Graham talk about Roth IRAs and 401ks, you'll find yourself in a lot of confusion if you try and figure out how to get access to those accounts in your own country. The simple answer is that you can't, because they don't exist. You wouldn't believe how often I get asked by one of my Irish viewers about how they can set up a Roth IRA here in Ireland when it's not possible. In reality, every country has their own rules around investing for retirement, and with those rules come different types of retirement accounts. Learning about the specifics of Roth IRAs and 401ks from Graham when you don't live in America is ultimately a waste of time, because those rules don't apply to you. What you should be doing is figuring out what retirement accounts are available in your country and the rules which apply to those accounts. Everything from how you invest in the accounts, how the investments are treated for tax purposes, and how you take benefits in retirement is going to be different in every country around the world. The same concept applies to any videos Graham makes about taxation. For example, in this video, 5 ways to avoid taxes legally, Graham talks about using retirement accounts, health savings accounts, and various deductions in order to reduce the amount of tax you pay. But this is only relevant to American viewers. Why? Because the tax system in every country around the world is different. There's different rules and regulations which dictate under what circumstances you have to pay tax, how much tax you have to pay, and when you have to pay it. Not to mention all the different tax reliefs and exemptions which you can avail of to reduce your tax bill in certain circumstances. Point being, no two tax systems are going to be the same. And so to spend time watching content which discusses a tax system and rules which aren't applicable to you is again a waste of time. But it's not just rules-based content like taxes and retirement investing which has limited geographic relevance on Graham's channel. Another hot topic which Graham often covers is credit scores. Credit scores are quite important in the US as they're used by lenders to assess your quality as a borrower, i.e. how likely it is that you'll pay the lender back. While having a good credit history is certainly important for your financial health, having a good credit score isn't necessarily relevant when it comes to borrowing money in other countries outside of the US. In many countries, lenders aren't overly strict on a borrower having a proven track record of good credit. Instead, they only really care about bad credit. So in most countries, there isn't really a need to start building up a credit history from a young age. The correct approach will be to only borrow when absolutely necessary and to ensure that you're meeting your repayments on time each and every month. More often than not, obsessing over a credit score simply isn't relevant. Even some of Graham's investing content may be of little relevance to non-US based viewers. For example, Graham often makes videos about specific index funds which he believes are good long-term investments. The problem is that for the likes of European investors, investing in US index funds oftentimes isn't possible. That's because US funds don't comply with a piece of European regulation called PRIPS, which essentially requires the providers of investment products to supply investors with a key information document that helps them understand what the product is. US investment providers don't supply this document. Therefore, European investors can't access the funds. So again, as a non-US viewer, you'll find yourself in a lot of confusion if you're trying to invest in the exact US funds which Graham is talking about. Instead, you should be looking for equivalent funds which you can actually access. Long story short, as a viewer, it's your responsibility to be aware that not everything that personal finance YouTubers cover will be relevant to you. The key thing to be aware of is that the actual rules applicable to the likes of retirement accounts, taxation, investing, and much more are going to be different in nearly every country around the world. So it doesn't make sense to try and copy what Graham is doing if you're not living in America. That doesn't mean that you should stop watching Graham if you're not from the US. Instead, focus on the principles which underpin what Graham and other finance YouTubers are talking about. Long-term investing, saving for retirement, avoiding debt, using the tax system to your advantage. These are things which are universally important. But when it comes to the specific rules of what you can and can't do and how you do it, that's something which you should probably research yourself or consult a local expert on. And to clarify, I'm in no way suggesting that Graham should cover every different type of retirement account in every country or every different tax treatment of a particular scenario. His target audience is presumably Americans, and therefore he should continue to make American-based content. But what I would like to see is Graham recognizing his global audience by clarifying for the viewer when topics like retirement and taxation are discussed that the specific rules which he discusses may not be relevant to the viewer. But what is relevant is the principles underpinning why the topic is important in the first place. There's also some important considerations around the actual content itself. Let's be real, even though most finance YouTubers clarify somewhere that their content isn't financial advice, many of their viewers are consuming the content with the intention of taking action on what they hear. The problem with doing so is that no matter what Graham says or what I say or what any other YouTuber says, every financial decision which you make must be made in the context of your own personal circumstances as an individual. In other words, the YouTuber can present the information, but applying the information requires a full evaluation of what's suitable for you, considering your age, your financial circumstances, your personal circumstances, your goals, and much more. That's why it actually is important to consider working with a qualified financial advisor, because not only will they help you make a plan, but they'll also weed out the information which isn't relevant to you. It's also very important to know the difference between a finance YouTuber and a financial advisor. This doesn't necessarily apply to Graham, but there are many finance creators out there who simply aren't experienced enough, both from an educational and practical perspective, to be creating finance content at a serious level. So understanding who the person is on the other side of the screen is critical. The last point I want to make is just around the importance of being aware of the goals of a finance YouTuber. Graham, like any other serious YouTuber, is tailoring his content to perform well under the YouTube algorithm, and that means catchy titles, clickable thumbnails, and content which is designed to keep you on the video and on the channel. Anytime there are alternative motives to the information being given, it's always important to be aware of biases and subjective opinions and to take everything you hear with a grain of salt. It's also worthwhile considering that just because content creators are uploading multiple times per week, that doesn't mean you need to be consuming finance content 24/7, 365 days a year in order to be good with your money. In fact, it's probably best to ignore a lot of the short-term content, which in reality won't add a whole pile of value to your life. Ultimately, I think Graham is a genuine finance creator who delivers valuable content to his audience. After all, you don't build up a following like his without delivering value. But to answer our questions from earlier, is it wise to rely on finance YouTubers for financial information, and is it wise to act on such information? I think we've come to a conclusion. Provided you're satisfied that the person on the other side of the screen is reliable, I think it's more than acceptable to rely on finance content on YouTube as a source of information. However, that is subject to some very important caveats. Number one, understand the geographic limitations of financial information, especially when the content is covering topics specific to one country. Number two, understand that it's never a good idea to make a financial decision based solely on a YouTube video. And number three, acknowledge the value of good financial advice. With that being said, finance YouTubers like Graham are spreading awareness about the importance of financial education on a scale that hasn't been seen before in history. Personal finance is something that impacts all of us, and the more people who are taking an active interest in their financial well-being, the better. But I want to hear from you on this one. What are your thoughts on personal finance YouTube? What do you like about it, and what would you like to see improve in the future? I think conversations like these are very important to have, and Graham, on the off chance you see this, I'd love to know your thoughts on everything I discussed. So I really do hope you enjoyed the video here today. If you did enjoy the video and want to see more finance content from me in the future, I upload multiple times per week, and I'd love to see you back again for future videos. Check out Graham's channel if you somehow haven't already. Leave a like on the video to show your support, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers!